Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is the Prophets of Awakening. It's our Tuesday night TANAK and news briefing. Okay. You can go to our YouTube channel, The Prophets of Awakening, check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos that you can look at, examine, get the meat out. Okay, these videos will lead you to the truth of the Holy Scriptures. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It'd be greatly appreciated. Okay, we have our Cash App at the bottom of the screen for those that want to support this channel and help it move along. Okay, that too would be greatly appreciated. Okay, like I said, we here every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Time for our Tuesday night news briefing. So if you enjoy what's being said and what's being conveyed, we here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time. Okay. This is a non-Messianic channel for those that don't know. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by our Savior and our Redeemer and our Deliverer, the Lord of Hosts. Okay. This channel was created to aid and assist our Hebrews who are waking up to their true identity in these last days and understanding who their Savior and their Redeemer truly is. Shalom and welcome to the channel, and welcome to our Tuesday Tanakh and news briefing. Okay, we're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, prayer, or songs. Then we'll, because it's our Tuesday night and our news briefing, we're going to do a little bit different. We get open it up for any questions, any comments, dialogue, or any testimonies, and then we'll go right into our Tuesday night Tanakh and news briefing. We have a series of news briefing, current events that we're going to tie to the end times, tie to the Tanakh, and then at the end we'll pick a scripture and we'll break that scripture down like we normally do, and then we'll close out. Okay. This moment of silence is for the Lord of Hosts and all that He's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Okay. Oh Lord, we thank you for your great mercy and your great power and your wisdom. And we tarry waiting for your powerful deliverance of your people, Israel. Oh Lord, you have given us insight into the scriptures of our forefathers. And you, oh Lord, have directed us to who you are and your role in the goings on of heaven and earth. Okay. You said, oh Lord, that you would remove the darkness from around us. Tarry not, O Lord, for the latter days are here. We are waiting and watching for you, O Lord. Peace be unto you. Okay. Read a song right quick. Okay. Right. Okay, I'm gonna read Psalm 32. It's the blessedness of forgiveness. The Psalm of David. Okay. Blessed is he who blessed whose transgressions is forgotten, whose sin is covered. Blessed is the man unto whom the Lord imputed not iniquity, and is in whose spirit there is no guile. When I kept silent, my bones waxed old through my ruin all the day long. For day and night thy hand was heavy upon me. My moisture is turned into drought of summer. Selah, I acknowledge my sin unto thee, and mine iniquity have I not hid. I said, I will confess my transgressions unto the Lord, and thou forgavest the iniquity of my sin. Selah, for this shall everyone that is godly praise us. Pray unto thee in times when thou mayest be found. Surely in the floods of great waters they shall not come nigh unto him. Thou art my hiding place. Thou shalt preserve me from trouble. Thou shalt compass me about with songs of deliverance. Selah, I will instruct thee and teach thee in the ways in which thou shalt go, and I will guide thee with mine eyes. Be ye not as the horse, or as the mule, which have no understanding, whose mouth must be held in with a bit and bridle, lest they come nigh unto thee. Many sorrows shall be to the wicked, but he that trusteth in the Lord, mercy shall compass him about. Be glad in the Lord, and rejoice, ye righteous, and shout for joy, all ye that are upright in heart. So that was Psalm 32. Okay, it's the blessedness of forgiveness. Okay. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna play this video before I open it up for questions and comments, because it's kind of flow with my with what I'm doing on Tuesday night with my current events and news briefing. So I'm gonna play this video first before I get into my news brief. You need to know information.
2026, that is today, and 3 separate crises are converging on this single date in a way that has never happened before. Let me be very specific about what happens today. First, April 6th marks the end of a 10-day tactical pause on U.S. and Israeli strikes targeting Iranian energy infrastructure. This pause was negotiated to allow for diplomatic discussions. It expires today. If no deal is reached, strikes on Iranian oil facilities resume immediately. Second, oil markets are hitting what traders are calling a decision point. The last pre-war tankers from the Gulf have arrived in Europe. Strategic petroleum reserve releases are running low, and oil futures contracts are pricing in either a dramatic spike or a collapse depending on what happens with Iran. Third, Goldman Sachs updates its recession probability model this week. The bank currently puts recession odds at 30%. Moody's Analytics is at 49%, 1 percentage point away from a threshold that has never been wrong in 80 years of data. If Moody's model crosses 50%, a recession has followed within 12 months every single time. So we have a military deadline, an oil market inflection point, and recession models approaching critical thresholds, all converging on April 6th, today.
Thanks, Mike. See you next month. So you can get these delivered? It's literally...
Covered in previous videos. The fuel shortage in Europe is a supply crisis. The Russia sanctions deadline is a policy decision. The defense budget is a fiscal issue. Those are single variable problems. Today is different. Multiple systems are reaching critical points simultaneously, and the decisions made in the next 48 hours will determine whether we get a diplomatic resolution that calms markets or an escalation that pushes the global economy into recession. I am going to walk you through exactly what is at stake. I will show you the specific data on each crisis. I will explain how they interact with each other, and I will give you the 3 most likely scenarios for what happens after today. This is not speculation. This is verified data from Goldman Sachs, Moody's Analytics, the U.S. Energy Information Administration, and market analysis from firms that are managing trillions of dollars based on what happens today. Let me start with the deadline that almost nobody is talking about, but that could change everything. On March 27th, the United States and Iran agreed to a 10-day tactical pause in strikes targeting energy infrastructure. This was not a ceasefire. The war continued, but both sides agreed to stop hitting oil and gas facilities for 10 days to allow diplomatic negotiations. That 10-day pause expires today, April 6th. According to multiple reports from financial analysis firms, this deadline has become the single most important date for oil markets. Here is why. The Iran war has been going on since February 28th, day 37. But until late March, the United States and Israel were avoiding strikes on Iranian oil production facilities. The strategy was to hit military targets, command and control missile sites, but not the oil infrastructure. That changed when Iran shut down the Strait of Hormuz and began targeting energy facilities in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE. Once Iran started hitting regional energy infrastructure, The U.S. warned that Iranian oil facilities were now legitimate targets. But before actually striking Iranian oil facilities, the U.S. agreed to this 10-day pause to see if Iran would agree to reopen the Strait of Hormuz in exchange for not having its oil infrastructure destroyed. So far, there is no indication Iran has agreed to anything. Iran's position is clear. The Strait of Hormuz remains closed until the war ends. Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, issued a statement saying the strait will not reopen until U.S. and Israeli forces withdraw. The U.S. position is also clear. President Trump said on April 1st that he is not ready quite yet to abandon efforts to force Iran to reopen the strait. He threatened to hit Iran's civilian energy and water infrastructure if no deal is reached. Today, the tactical pause ends, and one of three things happens. Option one, the pause gets extended. The U.S. and Iran agree to another 10 days or 2 weeks of negotiations. This would be seen as a positive development by markets. It suggests progress toward a diplomatic resolution. Oil prices would probably decline $5 to $10 per barrel on the news. Stock markets would rally. Option two, the pause ends with no extension, but also no immediate strikes. The deadline passes. No new pause is announced, but also no strikes happen immediately. Markets would be confused. Is this a breakdown in negotiations? Is the U.S. preparing for strikes but waiting? Oil prices would probably stay elevated with high volatility. Growth. Goldman Sachs projects that if oil reaches $150 per barrel and stays there for an extended period, U.S. GDP growth could turn negative in the second half of 2026. Now let me show you what is happening with inflation, because this is where the Federal Reserve gets trapped. The Federal Reserve has a dual mandate: promote maximum employment and maintain stable prices, meaning control inflation. Right now, those two goals are in direct conflict. On the employment side, the February jobs report was disastrous. The U.S. economy lost 92,000 jobs. That was far below the consensus forecast of a 60,000 job gain being pushed out in time. This is the muddle-through scenario. The war continues, but at a lower intensity. Negotiations drag on. Markets remain volatile, but avoid a major shock. Scenario two, tactical pause, ends, no immediate escalation. Probability 35%. The tactical pause expires. No new extension is announced. But strikes on Iranian energy infrastructure do not resume immediately. The U.S. and Iran both wait to see what the other does. What happens? Oil prices stay elevated in the $105 to $115 range. Markets are confused and volatile. Stocks trade in a range, not making major moves in either direction. The VIX stays.
Okay, what you think? You hear anything about that?
Right, yes, sir. Shalom. I was wondering, Brother Leonard, what they was gonna do, man, about this, the treaty, because I remember it was said, they acting like they doing some negotiations. But
Right.
even in my opinion, I feel like Iran mind is made up what they gonna do, and Israel, US, they mind is made up what they gonna do. So I think the treaty is just something fake.
Yeah, it's out of the question. As we speak, Trump already threatened to obliviate Iran, wipe it off the map. And the way he's talking, as if, like the guy was saying, the deadline was yesterday, the 6th. So who knows what you're gonna wake up to in the morning? You know what I'm saying?
Right, yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. You got anything else on that? That was like just some need to know information. I had to squeeze that in there. Okay.
Oh, yes, sir. And Brother Leonard, can I add this? And I had seen too, I don't forgot about it, so now it's been like 2 weeks ago, but I had seen like just the effects of this, right? Let's say they do come to an agreement and all this kind of stuff, which ain't gonna happen. But
Right.
right, there's just no reason that it could. But even if they did, remember they still said like the ships is like a month behind on getting through there. You know, it's not necessarily like just a fast thing because they all backed up or whatever. So then all the time that it would take for that to go, it's still, so you know, the chaos that was created was on purpose. You know, I guess it's kind of, you know, like they kind of working together, kind of.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like you can see it. I played a video the other day where it said the guy was talking about how that Trump is a demo man. He's playing the people like he's gonna make America great again, but he's been brought on the scene to bring America to down. A demo job is they always talk about a reset, and that's exactly what's happening. But they're using it, they're doing it they're doing it subliminally and eternally, but it's not. But he's saying one thing, but everything he's doing is a demo job. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So yeah. With that being said, like I said, Tuesday night, every Tuesday night at 7, we on Prophets of Awakening, and we have our Tuesday TANAK and news briefing, and the objective of this briefing is to combining the Tanakh, the Old Testament, and current events with end time news, and putting it together because it's me looking at it over the last 30 some years, 40 years. There's so many people that they delusional, and a lot of them just uninformed. They don't know how to rightly divide the scriptures. They don't know that the Old Testament is scripture and the New Testament is Greek, some kind of Greek overlay to not. It's not. It was never was written in Hebrew. It's Greek. The Greek concocted it. It's a cut off of the Old Testament, and the God is in the New Testament. The same way, same thing. And if you don't know that, there's no way you can actually try to connect anything when it comes to these last days and what actually was said by the Creator and what He sent His prophets and the angels and His prophets to do. Okay, so we was talking the other day. I think it was Sunday, or either it was on the men's line. It may have been both. But we was talking about how the guy. I played a video where the guy was talking about how that the people that they have told us pertaining to Gog and Magog. You know, Persia was one of them, but he went out his way to show that the region where Gog and Magog is exactly pointing toward Turkey, and then he mentioned Ethiopia was involved. You know what I'm saying? And so when you understand, you've been around Prophets of Awakening for a while, you understand that what happened with us, Israel, because of their disobedience over and over again, the Creator told Daniel that his indignation gonna come to a fool. And you say, what did you tell about? What did that mean? He had the Israelites taken to Babylon for 70 years. He brought them back. As soon as they got back, they picked back up what they seen against him and disobeying him. So, and like 12 other times they went into captivity with the Moabites and the Philistines and all these different nations. And so he's finally cast Israel away. And so when you understand what that means, he cast the Israelites away and our scriptures. He allowed the Gentiles and the powers to be to get a hold of our records. And what you come to find out is that they mutilated them. And how they did that was they wanted another God. They didn't want the God of Israel. They didn't want to deal with him. So they created this God like Yahweh, which is Jesus Christ. And when you understand our culture and things they laid upon him don't fit because they don't go with our culture. And so in these last days, he promised us he was going to lead us back. He was going to uncover all the things that's been covered over, and that's what's happening. It's about getting in the right place, getting with the right people to start dealing with the spirit of the Most High and connecting dots. Okay, and that's the objective of this channel right here, Prophets of Awakening. When we also have a sister channel, Israel Wake Up. We have our women's on. We come on here on Thursday nights, every Thursday night at 7 p.m. with our women's line. Okay, and then every Friday night with our men's line. So it's not like you don't have the opportunity to see proper information. It's just about making the effort. Okay. So anyway, we talked about how the guy mentioned that Persia, which we're looking at Persia, which is Iran, is in the end times. But he was showing how that Turkey is a major player, and he also showed that Ethiopia is a major player. And I said all that to play this video right here. I want you to check it out. This ain't for the faint at heart. Okay, check it out.
Ethiopia is Black Israel. Ethiopia existed as a civil.
Did you hear that? Now all of a sudden, Ethiopia is Israel. Okay, check it out.
Civilization before Moses was born, before Abraham left Ur, before the first Hebrew word was ever spoken. And yet, hidden inside the greatest story ever told, the story of the Exodus, the story of slavery and liberation, the story of God rescuing his people from Egypt, Ethiopia is there, present, suffering, crossing the Red Sea, wandering the wilderness, receiving the same blessing, worshiping the same God. They told you the Exodus was only an Israelite story. They lied. If you want the truth about Africa's place in the Bible, subscribe right now, because what you are about to hear will completely change how you understand ancient history and how you see the identity of African people in the story of God. Let the truth begin. Before we speak of Israel, before we speak of Egypt, before we speak of slavery or Exodus or promised lands, we must speak of Africa, because Africa is where this story starts. Not in the middle, not as a footnote, at the very beginning. The continent that ancient people called Africa, the land of the burning sun, the land of the great rivers, the land where humanity itself was born, was already ancient when the first civilizations of the Middle East were just forming. Egypt, which the ancient world regarded as the oldest of all nations, was itself an African civilization, built on African soil, populated by African people, sustained by the African Nile. And south of Egypt, in the land the ancient world called Kush, Nubia, or Ethiopia, was a civilization even older than Egypt itself. The kingdom of Kush, the ancestors of what we now call Ethiopia, was a civilization of such antiquity that the ancient Egyptians themselves acknowledged they had learned from the people to their south. Ethiopian civilization stretches back over 5,000 years, contemporary with or older than the earliest Egyptian dynasties. The ancient Greeks called this land Ethiopia, meaning land of the burnt-faced people, their way of describing the deeply melanated people of sub-Saharan and northeastern Africa. The Bible uses the Hebrew word Cush to describe this same territory and its people. Who lived in Goshen alongside Israel? Who had been present throughout the 400 years? Who had suffered the same bondage, witnessed the same plagues, and heard Moses' proclamation of liberation? The Ethiopians. The Ethiopians who had been brought to Goshen.
Yeah, check this out. Then I got something I want to talk about. Okay, remember I broke down on numerous occasions where the 400 years.
Not just Israelites.
Where the 400 years happened at, right?
Right, yes, sir.
Okay, in Egypt, 400 years that's in the Genesis chapter 15 is he prophesying to Abraham about them going into captivity in Egypt, not over here in America. So check this out. This
not a small number
subliminal. Watch this.
For foreigners tagging along at the edges. a mixed multitude. The Hebrew word used here is erev rav, literally a great mixture or a great multitude of mixed peoples. Ancient Jewish commentators, including Rashi and others, identified this mixed multitude as non-Israelites who joined the Exodus. They were people from various nations living in Egypt who had witnessed the plagues, who had seen the power of Israel's God, and who chose to leave Egypt with Israel rather than remain under Pharaoh's authority. And who was in this mixed multitude? Who lived in Goshen alongside Israel? Who had been present throughout the 400 years? Who were of Israel's God, and who chose to leave Egypt with Israel rather than remain under Pharaoh's authority? And who was in this mixed multitude? Who lived in Goshen alongside Israel? Who had been present throughout the 400 years? Who had suffered the same bondage, witnessed the same plagues, and heard Moses' proclamation of liberation? The Ethiopians. The Ethiopians who had been brought to Goshen generations before, who had built their communities alongside Israelite communities, who had intermarried with some Israelites, who had prayed alongside Israelites, who had suffered alongside Israelites. These Ethiopians heard the call of liberation. When Israel walked out of Egypt, the Ethiopians walked with them.
Okay, what you think about that?
Come on now, brother. They tripping. They tripping.
They trying to slide the Ethiopian in there, and all you hearing all this stuff about the Ethiopian Bible and all that, and Black Jesus. They trying to put another narrative on JC, saying that, trying to say, oh yeah, we can go for him being black, but as long as they still making reference to him. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yes, sir. Right.
Okay.
And
So
and bro Leonard, then another thing that gets me is when you even read the story where that information comes from in Jasher, right? It
right,
clearly lets you know that Moses was not from there. That's not Israel. It's different people than Israel. And there's not
exactly.
nothing that, not that there probably wasn't a few Nubians or whatever.
Right, exactly.
Uh, you know what I'm saying, here and there that got caught up in there, but it wasn't like all of them was living with the Hebrews in Goshen, right? Like they try and make it seem like the exact same struggle and all that.
Right, exactly. And then he trying to make it look like Israel was a mingled people. You know what I'm saying? Because on this video, the name of the video is Ethiopia's Black Israel, the Bible truth they've been hiding. So on the video, they got Ethiopians, white men, all different type of people coming out the Exodus, walking in the Exodus. Crazy,
Come on.
man. Ain't that something?
It is.
Yeah, like I said, they putting a twist on it. Check it out. And
Okay, so just recently,
this goes along with what I said about how they using Trump. They using him like, and with this "Make America Great" thing again, but at the same time, he's bringing his place down. That's the only reason they brought him on the scene.
the President of the United States gave a speech, and a lot of people were looking forward to hopefully the announcement of the end of the war. But that's not what ended up happening.
President Trump warning Iran the entire country could be taken out if they do not make a deal.
Every bridge in Iran will be decimated by 12 o'clock tomorrow night, where every power plant in Iran will be out of business, burning, exploding, and never to be used again. I mean, complete demolition.
In the middle of that speech, the stock market futures dropped. Oil went up even more than before, and Bitcoin went down. And it's all because the Strait of Hormuz, the most important oil choke points on Earth, responsible for 20 million barrels a day, is still closed. We know it's closed because of the most important chart you can look at today, which is this one. It shows total tanker transit calls, which are still down. Now, some people believe that if this strait stays closed for another 2 to 3 weeks, which is virtually guaranteed at this point, based on what the president is saying, the global economy will then reach a breaking point where even if the war stops, it might be too late, and it would start a crisis all around the world. And there's a theory that this crisis was planned as a way to bring about a major change to the world and the monetary system. That's because every crisis has always been an opportunity.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity.
Here we are now with an economy in crisis, but with an incredible opportunity.
It's certainly a major crisis, but it also offers us a unique opportunity.
Unprecedented opportunity to rethink and reset.
The great opportunity for reset.
Opportunity for us to reset.
For a reset.
The president says, in part, quote, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will."
Now, what's interesting is that if you look throughout history, every single time there has been a crisis, the end result was more centralization of wealth and power. And here's a few examples. In 2008, the financial system almost collapsed. And within weeks, the Fed invents quantitative easing, where they buy trillions in assets and bail themselves out. In 2020, the global pandemic shuts down the world, and we're told to stay home. And within a few months, governments all around the world are talking about something called the Great Reset. Klaus Schwab, who's the founder of the World Economic Forum, publicly states that the pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world. Right? COVID was the crisis, and the opportunity was global coordination of everyone's economies and currencies and centralized governments.
Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, distinguished heads of state and government, the future is built by us, by a powerful community as you here in this room.
The point is, there's a pattern throughout history. Every single time there's been a crisis, there was an opportunity for central planners to change how the world worked. Now, I'm not saying that there's some shadowy room somewhere where there's 12 people that plan all this. I don't think that's how it works. But what I am saying is that when there's a crisis, whether it's real or not, the people that are closest to power, who saw it coming, have always used it as an opportunity to upgrade the system in a way that centralized power. So the question that I want to explore in this video is, what is the next crisis? And what is the opportunity to centralize more power? Let me help explain what I think all of this might look like. And with that said, let's get into it.
Snap your W-2 and file.
So is this what he's breaking down is the fact that they're using this conflict with Iran to replace the dollar. Okay, check it out.
And stay for the next once in a millennial lifetime event. All right, so I'm going to spend most of this video explaining the next crisis and then the opportunity in the last part of the video, which I think is probably one of the most interesting things I've ever put together. Okay, so there's a number that economist Luke Gromen talks about, which is called the net international investment position. It sounds complicated, but what it measures is America's financial balance sheet with the rest of the world. Like, how much of our stuff do foreigners own versus how much of their stuff do we own? And why is that important? It's important because if foreigners own a lot of your stuff, they have more influence over the value of it. If, for example, they decide to sell it for whatever reason. Ideally, you want foreigners to own less of your stuff in a conflict situation. Okay, so right now, that number is negative 87% of GDP. What does that mean? To put it in perspective, after the first Gulf War, it was only negative 7%. After the second Gulf War, negative 12%. After the 2008 financial crisis, it was still only negative 15%. But then something happened. We just kept selling assets. We sold our stocks, we sold our real estate, our treasury bonds, and who did we sell it to? We sold it to China, to Europe, to Japan, and to anyone running a trade surplus against the United States. And that is why today, foreigners own about $70 trillion in US dollar assets. 9.4 trillion of that is US Treasury bonds alone. Now, here's why that might be bad. Those same places, Europe, Japan, China, Southeast Asia, are also the most dependent on oil going through the Strait of Hormuz. And that strait is obviously closed. But they still need to buy oil. And oil is priced in dollars. So they need dollars. Now, I've got a question. Where do foreign governments and central banks get dollars from when they need them really fast? The answer is their dollar assets, right? They're US stocks, US bonds, they're US treasuries. They have to sell them. And that's already happening. Foreign central bank holdings of US treasuries at the New York Fed just went down to the lowest level since 2012. In 4 weeks, tens of billions of dollars are gone. And that's just the beginning, because it'll probably get worse. Why is it going to get worse? It's going to get worse because when countries sell treasuries, treasury yields go up. And when yields go up, the cost of financing America's almost $40 trillion debt goes up as well. Now, the most important bond to look at right now is the 10-year treasury and its yield, which was in the threes when this war started, but it went up in the last 4 weeks. Now, the question is there a point at which bond yields hitting a certain level breaks the economy? Like, how high does this number have to go for things to start to get really bad for everyone in the US economy?
Right, that's where we at.
Did you know thousands
of
African...
on that? What you think?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. This sound like the effects that the Agent of Chaos is helping construct old Trump, because he just describing what's going on with the market,
right?
How they manipulating it, and, coming out on the other side of it.
Exactly, like he said, give it about 3 more weeks, and things gonna be real bad. And that's why I think that he's threatening Iran the way that he is now, where he's talking about flattening the whole Iran. He almost, to me, it seems as though he's proclaiming he's going to use nukes. What do you think?
Right, exactly. I can't see any other way to do that, right?
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, calling it bluff.
Right.
But he's gonna have to do more than that. Yeah, check this out. Oh, yeah. Check this out.
It's not just about acknowledging in these times.
And so many things coming to a head that, people caught up in their everyday things that they're doing have no idea that it's like when the flood came. The things that's transpiring, it's not going to matter. Whatever it is you're worried about, and you're not concentrating on what the Creator then told you and what the Creator then said, when this stuff comes to a head, everything else going to be obsolete. Check it out.
Wait, it's on the bucket.
There you go. Just got to do with what happened in with the vote on at the UN. They had the vote on the ramifications of slavery, and this guy right here is breaking it down as far as the outcome after they made the decision that they made it the transatlantic slave trade the greatest crime to humanity.
The nations exposed themselves on March 25th, 2026. In a moment seen before the world, the nations gathered and cast their votes on a declaration acknowledging the trafficking of the people of the book, those who the world called the enslaved Africans, who were subjected to racialized chattel slavery. Many stood in agreement. A few openly resisted. Others chose to stand aside. But this was more than a political decision. It was a witness in the earth. It revealed not only positions, but hearts. It showed how the nations respond when truth is placed before them, when history speaks, and when the cries of the afflicted are brought into the light. More than anything, this moment revealed that the nations are being watched, not just by the world, but by Yahuwah. Their decisions are not just recorded in history books, they are weighed in the heavens. Every vote, every stance, and every hesitation becomes part of a greater testimony. This was not just about acknowledging the past, it was about revealing the present condition of the nations and how they will be judged. Yahuwah sees all things. Scripture teaches that Yahuwah is not blind to what has been done among the nations. He sees oppression, injustice, and the suffering that has been carried across generations. Yahuwah sees what men try to hide. He sees what is written in secret agreements, what is buried in history, and what is passed down through systems that continue injustice. In the Apocrypha, a witness that speaks clearly about injustice and the value of labor. It declares that those who suffered were not properly accounted for. Their work was taken, their strength was used, and yet no true record, no fair return, and no just reward was given. It is written in Wisdom of Solomon 5 verses 1 to 2, where it says, "Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him, and made no account of his labors. When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear." Revelation 6 verse 10 speaks of souls crying out, "How long, O Yahuwah, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood?" This shows that injustice does not disappear. It calls out until it is answered. Those who voted against are in open resistance. The few who voted against the declaration stand as a clear sign of resistance. To oppose the acknowledgement of such suffering is not just a political stance. It is a refusal to align with truth that has already been made known. Scripture speaks of those who hold the truth in unrighteousness, suppressing what is right even when it is clear. This resistance often comes from pride, fear of accountability, or a desire to protect power and history. Like Pharaoh, who hardened his heart despite signs and warnings, there are those who refuse to bow. Pharaoh, though shown signs and wonders, hardened his heart again and again. He saw the power of Yahuwah, yet refused to submit. Pride tells them they are justified. Fear warns them of what they may lose if truth is fully accepted. Is rising to the surface. What was once spoken in whispers is now declared before the nations. This agreement is not small. It is a sign that awareness is growing, that the weight of history is being recognized, and that the cries of the afflicted have not been silenced. It shows that even within systems that have long resisted truth, there is movement. Proverbs 21 verse 1 reminds us, "The king's heart is in the hand of Yahuwah. He turneth it whithersoever he will." This means that even in global assemblies, even among leaders and nations, Yahuwah is able to move hearts to bring truth forward at the appointed time. Whether nations will follow through, whether they will humble themselves, and whether they will act in truth, this is what will be weighed. So while many have taken a step toward truth, the journey is not complete. The light has come, and it has been acknowledged. But now the question remains, will that light be followed? Will it lead to repentance, obedience, and justice for the people of Yahuwah? Because in the end, it is not the vote that will stand, it is the actions that follow, and the hearts behind them that will be judged. Some may understand the truth, but resist the full weight of it. Others may feel it, but choose not to act. And some may still remain hardened. Yet even this is part of what is being revealed. For when truth is made clear, every heart responds according to what is within it. Yahuwah sees these differences clearly. He knows who is truly seeking to turn, and who is only speaking without intent to change. He knows who is ready to walk in righteousness, and who is still holding on to pride. Nothing is hidden from him. Those who hide their wrongdoing. But there are others who, though aware of the truth, choose to hide it. They see it clearly. They understand what has been done. Yet instead of bringing it fully into the light, they cover it, soften it, or only acknowledge it in part. This is not ignorance, it is concealment. It is the decision to keep certain things buried, to control what is revealed, and to avoid the full weight of accountability. This hiding often comes from fear. The cost of truth can be great. Luke 12 verse 2. In fact, it increases the weight of judgment because it adds deception to wrongdoing. Proverbs 28 verse 13 says, He that covereth his sins shall not prosper, but whoso confesseth and forsaketh them shall have mercy. This shows that hiding leads away from mercy, while confession leads toward it. Those who hide wrongdoing stand at a crossroads. They can continue to cover what has been done, holding on to temporary protection, or they can bring it into the light and seek mercy. There are also those who simply want the matter to pass. They see the weight of it, but hope that time will erase it. They choose silence, distraction, or delay, believing that if enough time passes, the burden will fade. But Scripture shows that time does not erase injustice, it preserves it until judgment. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 17 says that Yahuwah will judge both the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time for every purpose. Ignoring truth does not remove it, it only delays the reckoning. The pattern of judgment in Scripture moment is not isolated. It follows a pattern seen throughout Scripture. Yahuwah has always judged nations based on how they treat people. Egypt was judged for its oppression. Babylon fell for its pride and cruelty. Assyria and Rome rose in power, but were brought low when their wickedness reached its fullness. Exodus 3 verse 7 shows that Yahuwah hears the cries of the afflicted. In the Apocrypha, Wisdom of Solomon 6 verse 4 warns that rulers who do not judge rightly, who do not keep the law, and who do not walk in the counsel of Yahuwah will face swift and severe judgment.
Okay.
Repaid, leaving with great substance. When Yahuwah delivers his people from captivity, they do not leave empty. They do not walk away with nothing after generations of suffering. They leave with substance. They leave with restoration. They leave with what is owed. This was first shown clearly in Egypt. After years of hard bondage, forced labor, and affliction, Yahuwah did not bring his people out empty-handed. Exodus 12 verses 35 to 36 says that the children of Israel borrowed of the Egyptians silver, gold, and goods, and Yahuwah gave them favor so that the Egyptians gave unto them. This was not theft. It was repayment. It was justice. It was the restoring of what had been taken through oppression. What had been built on their labor did not remain in the hands of their oppressors. Yahuwah caused a transfer. This was not a one-time event. It was a pattern and a promise. Genesis 15 verse 14 declares, Afterward shall they come out with great substance. This was spoken long before the captivity even fully unfolded, showing that Yahuwah had already established the outcome. Even before the suffering reached its fullness, he had already determined that restoration would follow. This reveals something deep about his nature. He does not only deliver, he restores. The prophets confirm this pattern again. Isaiah 60 speaks of a future where the wealth of the nations flows toward the people of Yahuwah. Verse 5 says, The forces of the Gentiles shall come unto thee. And verse 11 declares that the gates shall be open continually so that men may bring unto thee the wealth of the nations. This is not symbolic alone. It is a declaration of reversal. What was once taken will be returned. What was once held by others will be transferred. This shows that Yahuwah's justice is not partial, it is complete. He does not only end oppression, he addresses the damage caused by it. He restores dignity. He restores substance. He restores what was lost across generations. The outcome, it will be the judgment of Yahuwah. Psalm 9 verse 8 says that he will judge the world in righteousness. Every nation will be brought into account. Every action, every decision, and every hidden thing will be revealed. The crimes committed against his people, the chains, the ships, the scattering, the suffering are not forgotten. They stand as a testimony before him. Those who humble themselves, acknowledge truth, and seek to make things right may find mercy. But those who resist, deny, or continue in injustice will face judgment. Daniel 2 verse 21 reminds us that Yahuwah removes kings and sets up kings. No nation is above him. No power can stand against his will. No nation can oppose the will of Yahuwah or refuse to walk in his truth. They cannot escape his judgment. For he alone rules over the kingdoms of men, and in his time he will judge every nation according to truth.
Okay. What you think?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. Well, Michael is the one doing that delivering. I mean, that he was saying Yahuwah was doing.
Right, exactly. Right. With this song.
Right, yes, sir.
Yeah. So based on that, I'm gonna play this right here, bouncing off the previous video.
Americans are quietly leaving the United States every year, not because they have to, but because they found a better way to live. Some started as digital nomads and never came back. Others moved abroad looking for something simple: peace, stability, and a life that actually feels worth it. And once you see what life looks like outside the US, it's hard to unsee it. So where are they going? Is it Europe, Latin America, or somewhere you probably never expected? Today, we're breaking down the 10 biggest communities where African Americans are building new lives abroad and why this movement is growing faster than ever. And if you're curious about living differently, hit subscribe. Number 10. Mérida, Mexico. Mérida has established itself as a sanctuary, boasting a population of over 4,000 Black expatriates. The primary draw for this community is the high level of physical safety. Mérida is statistically recognized as the safest urban city in North America. It maintains a low crime index of just 22, making it safer than many rural towns in the American Midwest. African American community in Mérida is organized and welcoming to new expats. They are centered around active Facebook groups that serve as visa. This shift successfully filtered out short-term tourists and allowed a community of 5,000 Black expats to thrive. The weather in Medellin sits at a perfect 72 degrees Fahrenheit all year round. This spring-like climate eliminates the need for expensive residential heating or air conditioning systems. In desirable neighborhoods like Laurel or El Poblado, premium real estate remains accessible. A luxury 2-bedroom penthouse with mountain views and security 10,000 members. This demographic prioritizes genuine work-life balance over the daily corporate grind. Healthcare in Spain is ranked by the World Health Organization among the top 10 systems globally. As a legal resident, an expat can purchase private health insurance for roughly $60 to $90 a month. Despite the idyllic lifestyle, expats must learn to navigate the notorious Spanish bureaucracy. Administrative tasks are paper-heavy and often require multiple appointments booked months in advance. Additionally, the entire country effectively shuts down business operations during the month of August. This nationwide pause can be frustrating for Americans accustomed to constant commercial convenience. Nevertheless, Valencia provides supreme safety and a welcoming culture for all African Americans looking to relocate. Number 4. Accra, Ghana. Heading south to the bustling shores of West Africa, few places offer the emotional homecoming you will find here. Accra remains a powerful epicenter for the African diasporas, sustaining momentum from the Year of Return campaign. It provides the psychological liberation of realizing that you finally belong to the racial majority. The Ghanaian government offers streamlined pathways to securing residency and actively encourage diaspora investment and repatriation. Today, the African American expat community in Accra is massive, exceeding 12,000 active individuals. Financially.
Okay, so what you think about that? I played this for a reason. What you think about all these different places these African Americans going? It's an exodus, but not according to what they told us. What you think?
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, when I think about the people that already went to Africa, Brother Leonard, I I think about the different waves, how like when we broke down the Babylonian captivity, how
Exactly.
people left was left with Zerubbabel, left with Nehemiah, and left with Ezra, I think.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah. Right, that's
But
what it
then you gotta
reminded me.
look right, you gotta look at the judgment. We see the judgment coming, so
Mm-hmm.
we getting out of here. But then he gonna call us to be like I said. He said, by the way in which I brought you out. Then when they went into Egypt, they originally went into Egypt. 70 souls they went into Egypt, and they left the land of Canaan and went into Egypt. When the 400 years is up that he prophesied to Abraham, they went back where they came from. We wasn't in Africa, we wasn't in Israel when we left, or when they came, we wasn't in Israel when they came and got us on the West Coast. So we're going back, we're going back them routes. We were scattered at all these different places. Then a lot of people came here, all migrated here. This place when they get judged, so when you start looking at it, you can see that same way they was in Goshen when he judged Egypt. They had he had the Israelites in another place outside of when he judged Egypt. They wasn't in Egypt. They was outside of Egypt. So when you start looking at this, you can see he getting us out of here. And then you got to look at the fact that he says you're gonna see it, the judgment. So you got, in order to see it, you got to be outside of it to see it.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
And close enough, right? Close enough to see it.
And then with the technology today, social media and the news and all that, you can sit in your TV in your house in one of these countries and see America getting judged. You ain't got to be here, right? Oh yeah.
Okay.
Then he called his remnant. Okay.
All right.
I was looking at it. Yeah. Yeah. So I was talking about that. The guy broke down the fact that Ethiopia and going to be used in these last days, and Turkey. Check this out. I was like, wow. Check it out. All of a sudden.
So today I want to talk about the country that is sitting at the exact center of this war, touching every single player, connected to every single pressure point, holding leverage over every single outcome, and receiving almost no serious analytical attention. Everyone is watching America. Everyone is watching Iran. Everyone is watching Israel and Russia and Saudi Arabia. But the country that could change the entire trajectory of this war with a single decision, the country whose strategic position is so uniquely powerful that both sides need it and neither side can afford to antagonize it, that country is Turkey. And I want to ask you something before we go any further. When was the last time you heard a serious analysis of Turkey's role in this conflict? When was the last time a mainstream analyst explained what Turkey is thinking, what Turkey is gaining, what Turkey is threatening, and what Turkey could do? Almost never, because Turkey does not fit neatly into the narrative. Exactly. Turkey is not cleanly on one side or the other. Turkey is doing something far more sophisticated than taking sides. And that sophistication, that extraordinary strategic positioning, is exactly what makes Turkey the real kingmaker of this war. The nation nobody is watching that could determine everything. So today I want to walk you through Turkey's position carefully, precisely, and in a way that will make you see this entire conflict differently. Because once you understand what Turkey is doing and why, you will understand that the outcome of this war may not be decided in Tehran or Washington or Tel Aviv. It may be decided in Ankara. Let me start with geography, because in geopolitics, geography is destiny. And Turkey's geography is perhaps the most extraordinary strategic asset of any nation on earth right now. Look at a map. Turkey sits at the exact intersection of Europe and Asia. It controls the Turkish Straits, the Bosphorus, and the Dardanelles, the only maritime passage between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. Every Russian naval vessel that wants to move from the Black Sea to the Mediterranean must pass through Turkish-controlled waters every day, without exception. Russia's entire Black Sea fleet, the fleet it has been using to project power in the Ukraine conflict and to threaten NATO's southern flank, exists entirely at Turkey's discretion. If Turkey closes the straits, that fleet is trapped. If Turkey opens them, that fleet can move. That is an extraordinary lever over Russian behavior that Turkey has exercised with remarkable discipline and strategic patience throughout the Ukraine conflict. But Turkey's geographic leverage does not stop there. Turkey shares a border with Iran to the east, a long, complex, deeply intertwined border with a history of trade, tension, migration, and mutual dependence that goes back centuries. Turkey shares a border with Iraq and Syria, the territories where Iranian proxy forces operate and where the supply lines that sustain Iran's regional influence run. Turkey is a NATO member connected to the most powerful military alliance in history, with the second largest army in that alliance, with American nuclear weapons stored on Turkish soil at Incirlik Air Base. And Turkey controls access to the Black Sea for the entire alliance. In a Turkey, while maintaining enough NATO credibility that America cannot afford to alienate it. That calibration is a masterpiece of strategic positioning. And in the context of this war, where Russia's behavior could significantly affect the outcome, Turkey's influence over Russian calculations through Straits access is a genuinely powerful lever. The third leverage point is the Kurdish question. This is the most complex and most underappreciated source of Turkish leverage in this entire conflict. The Kurdish populations of Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Iran represent one of the most volatile potential destabilizers of the entire Middle East. Turkey has fought a decades-long insurgency against the PKK, the Kurdistan Workers' Party, that has cost tens of thousands of lives and shaped Turkish politics more deeply than almost any other single issue. And Turkey's tolerance for Kurdish political and military activity in northern Syria, in northern Iraq, and potentially in Iranian Kurdistan is something that both America and Iran need to manage. America has worked with Syrian Kurdish forces, the YPG, as its primary partner in the fight against ISIS. Turkey views...
So what you think? Ain't this something? We just talked about that, and then here we go.
And then, Brother Leonard, is that your same agent guy?
Yeah, the same guy. Right.
See, come on, man. Yeah, that's interesting. Right.
and like I said, what they got going and what the Lord of Hosts have prophesied, like I said, is streamlined. It's all going, you know what I'm saying? It's all going because they what they did with the plagiarism and the typology it's all flowing together. But what the Most High is doing is superseding it.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So check this out. This kind of hit home right here. The reason I'm playing it. Okay. But I think it's happening everywhere.
Y'all want to hear something crazy? You know that large data center that Meta is building in Louisiana? Well, they want Entergy to build 10 gas power plants just to supply the electricity for that damn data center. I'm not shitting y'all. They're going to provide enough electricity to power 7 million houses. But they need it for that damn power plant. Energy has already signed a contract with Energy Transfer for them to supply them a pipeline of natural gas. 36-inch pipeline. They're going to provide them 1 billion cubic feet a day of natural gas just to power the power plants so they can provide electricity for that damn data center. Now, Energy says it's not going to raise the prices for none of their customers because Meta's going to pay for it. Damn good thing, huh? But they're also building transmission lines to add to the grid, so any excess electricity that they make can help go to supply for the customers.
This is absolutely huge is the word. All right, I know I stumbled upon that word, but this is huge. Something huge is happening in this town right here. I know it's a rural town in Louisiana, and we're actually going to dive a little bit deeper into this story right here. But the fact that we're dealing with this in so many different towns, so many different communities across the entire United States is absolutely insane, guys. You got towns who are running out of water right now, and I've already made a video about it. I'll probably make a follow-up video on it very, very soon. But the fact that we are continuing to allow these data centers to destroy communities across the world is insane. Just for AI. And listen, while AI, I know is making companies billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars across many different industries, I still don't like it. I don't like how it's impacting the environment. I don't like how it's causing all these layoffs. I don't like how it's affecting so many different aspects of the United States. That's just my perspective. But let's dive into how it's actually affecting a local community where this massive data center is being planned on. Let's check this one out. Data center in our town.
We were behind an 18-wheeler once, and it backed up, and we almost got killed.
I grew up here, and I wanted my kids to be able to do the same. And we welcome Meta, which opened a data center in our town.
We were behind an 18-wheeler once, and it backed up, and we almost got killed. My guy had to mouth those people out. So saying, Meta's stupid, she just doesn't like it, and I don't like it. We've been there for since I was alive, and Papa was alive, so I don't really like that we're gonna have to move.
We went to Holly Ridge, Louisiana, where Meta's new Manhattan-sized data center is being built. Meta's new ads claim these communities welcome data centers, but residents painted a very different picture.
We had no voting on it, no community meetings, no nothing. It was done all under the table. And when it was said and done, there was nothing nobody could do.
You're planning to leave?
I've been here 81 years. I can't stay here with nobody I can talk to. My mom has been out here all her life, 82 years. She's really not happy about it, but does want to leave too.
Do you think they care about the people that live here?
No, I sure don't.
Massive change to the community. And of course, I know they're talking about accidents, car accidents and wrecks and things like this, but I think that is honestly solely due to a lot more foot traffic coming into that town right there. When you got more trucks, more vehicles, more people, more community that's coming in, workers and all these different construction aspects coming in, you're going to have a massive increase. I think the number of increases of car accidents was 600% or somewhere along those lines. Don't quote me on that one, but it was massive increases. But yes, it is going to affect that. You also saw the water. The water on that lady's home is brown. Brown. Can you imagine going to take a shower and you got brown water coming out of your faucet? That's how serious this is. People are into the car accident situation, but hey, let's check this one out.
I don't know if you guys missed this one or not, but data centers are now responsible for physical harm via car crashes and not just your average run-of-the-mill environmental harm that then physically harms us. Meta's $27 billion data center in Louisiana, called Hyperion, has caused at least a 600% increase in car crashes in a small town of 2,000 people. They went from 9 car crashes in 2024 to 64 crashes between January to mid-September of 2025. I can't find any more data for the rest of the year, but I can bet there were more. And Meta estimates that at the peak of the project, they are employing 5,000 workers, 2.5 times the size of the town that this data center will reside in when it's done in 2030. Later on.
Facts, or either they just make so much money to the point where that money that they're probably being fought against is probably just pocket change within the massive budget that they have. But in the grand scheme of things, I even say, I decided to do a little more research on the Louisiana community. And I know, listen, people say this isn't political or this doesn't matter, but I think it is a very important perspective on this, because how you vote determines how each different city, each different, a lot of this is happening because of how money-based we are right now as a country. How much we decide that we want to, give up money to these billionaire corporations, trillionaire corporations in many different aspects. Yeah, it is based off of how you vote, 100%. Right now, we have someone sitting in office who is solely built on building businesses. I mean, people say he's not successful. I hope people come out and make decisions within the elections, guys. That's just what it is. But either way, guys, it happens at the state level. It happens at the city level. You guys got to really, especially for communities like this, you got to show up to the town halls. You got to show out, at.
Say, what you think? Notice what he said, 2030. Ain't that something? That's when it's scheduled to be finished.
Right.
Ain't that something?
Mm-hmm. Line up with the other, when everything, with the population shift and all of that, lined up with agenda 2030.
Right. Ain't that something? That's crazy, man. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. So, yeah. And I'll play this, and then I got one more video after that to, yeah, let me get that.
I've been noticing for years that the Trump cult is absolutely obsessed with Barack Obama. So I decided to do some research to try and find out why the MAGA cult is so obsessed with Obama. Barack Obama has not been president for 10 years, and MAGA can't stop talking about him. They're literally obsessed
I was listening to this, and it dawned on me. I say, this is one of the main reasons that triggered Project 2025 when Obama came in office.
The man. They try and blame him for things that are happening today. That's not random. There's a psychological reason for that, although it seems a little creepy. Here are the 4 reasons the Trump cult is obsessed with President Obama. 1. The psychological wage of whiteness. In 1935, sociologist W.E.B. Du Bois at Atlanta University studied poor white Americans. White Americans, even the poor ones, with no money and no power, felt superior to Black Americans, not because they earned it, but because for 250 years the entire system told them they were superior to Black people. The law said it, the church said it, the culture said it. Du Bois called it the psychological wage of whiteness. This is a status payment people collect just for being white, a floor that white people couldn't fall beneath. Then Barack Obama became president. He occupied the highest status role in the country. That destroyed the floor. And when a status floor breaks, people don't quietly adjust. They backlash. Obama didn't just win an election. He took something they didn't even know they were depending on. They didn't earn this special status, but they thought it was stolen when Barack Obama got elected. And they've been trying to take it back ever since. 2. Social identity threat. Psychologist Henry Teifel at the University of Bristol spent decades studying in-group conflict. What he found was when a member of an outgroup outperforms the in-group, the psychological response is not one of admiration, but hostility. Teifel called this social identity threat. A failed Black president would have confirmed the Trump cult's worldview, but Obama, being polished, competent, scandal-free, and widely respected by world leaders, made it impossible to call him incompetent. The better Obama performed, the more threatening he became to the cult. Not because of his policies, but because his success directly contradicted everything they believe about the natural order of things. He wasn't supposed to be better. He wasn't supposed to be a gentleman and a scholar, and yet he was. That doesn't just go away. When weak, mediocre people see someone they believe was inferior reach the highest office in the country, they don't get inspired. They become filled with rage.
Exactly.
They feel lied to, and they need someone to blame for the hate and
That's
rage.
That
target is Obama, everything they could never be. 3. Scapegoating. Obama left office in 2017, but his name never left the conversation because Trump spent more than a decade smearing his name. It all started before Trump was even president. Trump spent years pushing the birther conspiracy, claiming Obama wasn't American, wasn't legitimate, wasn't one of us. That wasn't politics. That was a deliberate effort to strip Obama of his humanity and plant him in the minds of millions as the source of everything wrong. Then when Trump took office, the playbook continued. Every problem needed an explanation. Economy struggling? Obama's fault. Crime rate rising? Obama's fault. Anything going wrong in the country? Obama's fault. Psychologists call this scapegoating. Assign one figure as the source of all your problems and anxiety, which then collapses onto that single target. It feels like clarity to his followers. It feels like understanding. It isn't. Trump didn't just keep Obama's name alive. He spent over a decade turning him into the villain of the story. And to the Trump cult members, this story still is true. 4. Cognitive dissonance. Here's what made the obsession permanent. The MAGA cult couldn't call Obama corrupt. There were no scandals. They couldn't call him incompetent. The record didn't support it. They couldn't even call him unpresidential. He was polished, disciplined, and respected around the world. Psychologist Leon Festinger at Stanford University studied what happens when people are confronted with evidence that contradicts their deeply held beliefs. Weak people don't update their beliefs when confronted with contradicting evidence. They double down on their original beliefs. Festinger called this cognitive dissonance. MAGA was left holding a belief system that Obama's entire existence disproved. And instead of resolving that contradiction by updating their worldview, they resolved it by hating him harder. The obsession isn't just political, it's psychological, and it has nowhere left to go. So it goes out onto everyone else in rage and obsession. Obama is living proof that the psychological wage of whiteness doesn't exist anymore. And to weak people who never earned that status in the first place, it feels like an identity crisis. So they obsess more, say his name more, talk about him obsessively all the time. They even have a name for this now, Obama derangement syndrome, because Obama didn't just win the presidency. He broke a hierarchy millions of people thought was permanent. And that.
Okay, what you think?
Oh, shalom, bro. Linda, I agree with that. Because I know some young, like people that are like 21 right now, and even, like younger than, or probably like 25. All of them, that was the first thing they remember once they was old enough to, kind of know what was going on. They remember a black president. That was their first impression, And so that inspiration, like they think more highly, they don't think like about trying to be NBA players and stuff like that. They seen Obama be president, so they aspire to be things like that. And I just feel like that's what they don't want,
Right.
If you made the example like with Shador, brother Leonard, like, like the kids that's gonna come out to Shador, if they let Shador shine and get all the money and get the money he's worth, the next kid's gonna get even more money and have more power. They don't like that.
And it's a mass influx of. See, it ain't like he the first one. His daddy was a superhero.
Right.
That's what they write. It's them kids that's coming behind their parents. You know what I'm saying? Like what Boo's two boys now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's what they're looking at. Shack boys. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna break the payroll salary system. Because they're not just building a name, they already got a name.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. So that's what that is. But the thing about when I was saying the Project 2025 is based off of this, the system. Obama just didn't do 4 years. They thought he was gonna do the 4 years, they thought he was gonna crash and burn. But then he ended up maintaining himself, then he got reelected. So it's the system that got him elected. That's what Project 2025 is tearing down. Like I said, all those blacks that had those government jobs, DI jobs, those the ones that coerced around him and voted him in office. Then they turned right around and coerced together and got Biden in there. That's what these are people that caused Trump to lose the second term. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So now that's the system they tearing down. Because that same system could put another black man in there. So they tearing all that down. Okay, yeah, that's what that is. But check this out, and then I understand that's like it's no way when you go back and look at how did Hillary Clinton lose? Because Trump is, I mean, she was just like Obama. You know what I'm saying? So how did she lose?
Right.
Check this out. Like I say, they had to get rid of that system. They got Obama in there. Here we go. I'm just gonna let it run because.
And that's why, I mean, they never wanted that. They never wanted it to be so obvious that you and I are able to talk about this and everyone just nods their head and understands what we're saying. The ability to maintain this stranglehold on a bipartisan level on the American consciousness, American public opinion, especially in Washington, has been absolutely central to the Israelis for, as long as Israel has existed. But now the cat is out of the bag and it's never going back in.
The Israel lobby's in full-blown panic mode.
Check
That's
it out.
just undeniable, and it's actually a sign of encouragement to us dissidents that dare to say, hey, we don't want to bankroll this foreign country at the expense and peril of Americans. But Glenn Greenwald breaks down why. Why is it now that they're acting so crazily, so insane to push this foreign regime in prioritization above all other issues? He breaks it down here on the Danny Jones Show. Let's take a look at it. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
And it feels to me like they're intentionally being overt about this and intentionally trying to stir up more controversy over the Israeli influence in the US.
Yeah, but I don't think they're doing it out of miscalculation, but rather panic and necessity. It's hard to overstate for people who only started paying attention to Israel in a really intense and passionate way since, say, October 7, how different of a world we live in when it comes to the ability to talk about this than basically every era before this. You have generations, basically since the creation of Israel. You can go back and listen to Harry Truman when the United States was the first country to recognize Israel, when Zionism was still very controversial as a new ideology. Didn't even exist until the early 20th century, basically. We talk about it now like Zionism is a religion, nobody can question it, but Zionism is a very new religion. There are a lot of religious Jews who think it's heresy, but they're outnumbered. I've interviewed them on my show. But if you probably the worst accusation that you could stand accused of being guilty of in public life was anti-Semitism. People were petrified of it. I mean, you could withstand being called a racist more easily or any other, but anti-Semitism, being an anti-Semite, that was career destruction. And it's not hard to understand why. There are a lot of, very powerful Jewish people. This is just reality. I know like people want you not to say it, but in banking, in Hollywood, in media, in politics, in education, in universities. And so there was a lot of power that was packed into that accusation. And I remember one of the first times I ever really confronted this as like someone who was, writing about politics and doing journalism. It was like 2006. Hillary Clinton was running for the Senate in New York. And this was before like the Hillary Clinton that we now know, like super mega establishment Hillary Clinton, who was Secretary of State, who advocated wars. This is like the Hillary Clinton who people still thought was kind of like the left-wing Hillary Clinton as she was depicted in the 90s when her husband was president, going back to her Vietnam years when she was a protester, a feminist. And when she was running for the Senate in New York, she started taking these very hardline positions, including about Iran. This is like in the midst of the Iraq War. She voted for the Iraq War. She was very hawkish on Iran. And she had this finance guy for her campaign named Hank Scheinkauf. And they had this neoconservative Jewish newspaper called the New York Sun. I think it's now defunct, but at the time it was a big neocon journal. And they asked him, like, hey, what gives? Why is Hillary Clinton so hawkish now? Like, she seems like she's almost like at the center, even on the right. And he said, look, the reality is in New York politics is that Jewish donors are the ATM of New York politics. And
New York politics, check it out.
Cannot succeed in New York politics unless you become fanatically pro-Israel.
And it seems to be the case confirmed on so many levels, with not only AOC seeming to toe that line, but also Chuck Schumer to an even more extreme degree. And what I really liked about what Glenn talked about here was that they're in panic mode, not out of a miscalculation. They're actually in panic mode out of necessity. I portrayed this as the Zionist vision is of like a door closing down the hallway, getting darker and darker. And they think they have a time constraint because they do. The American people are turning away from Israel first, the Israel lobby supporting Israel's wars, which the Iran war obviously is. And they think they only have a small time frame to really consummate and carve out the Greater Israel Project, to expand the borders of Israel, prioritize Israel, keep the money spigots flowing to Israel and Netanyahu. That's why you saw them making excuses for the genocide in Gaza. That's why you see them making excuses for hate speech codes and the lobbying efforts behind that on a local level in the United States. So I think Glenn's exactly right about that. This is panic for necessity. They are dying out. It's a great source of encouragement for us that are critics of Israel, but it's something that we're seeing out in the open for really the first time as well.
And I wrote about this. This is a Jewish finance director of Hillary Clinton saying this. I'm Jewish. I was writing about it because he actually said it. And I remember it was like the first time I really got attacked, like in a serious orchestrated way. Yeah, 2006. It was like, you're an anti-Semite. This is a trope that Jews control everything. That they have all the money they use. I was like, no, but I'm not the one saying it. I'm just reporting. Like, this is the reality of what this guy is saying to a neocon Jewish newspaper, the New York Sun. And then it was that year that John Mearsheimer and Stephen Walt, the professors at Harvard and University of Chicago, wrote an essay that they couldn't get published in the United States. They published it in the London Review of Books called The Israel Lobby, and then they turned it into a book in 2007, which is the first real mainstream scholarly attempt to drag the Israel Lobby out into the light. Because as you said, they've been hiding in the kind of, operating in the shadows, the way most lobbies prefer to.
That article and that book, The Israel Lobby, with Stephen Walt and John Mearsheimer, is the best book to read on this subject. And it's so prophetic because that was released in 2007. It's incredible how ahead of the curve that book.
You get that? Hello?
Brother,
the book. Check it out.
Was because it really depicts these tentacles of power in the form of the Israel Lobby entrenched in the United States. And Glenn's right about, just reporting on this stuff would be portrayed as an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. You're a kook, you're a Jew hater, you're a bull.
Yeah, this is a book.
This is well worth looking into. Monetary-metals.com.
Right. I think that's the name of the book, Monetary Metals, Unlocking the Productivity of Gold.
/vault to learn how you can start earning a return on your gold. Monetary Metals has my full enthusiastic endorsement. It's the ultimate lifeline to protect yourself against the corrupt United States. Israel suspects it is, but it isn't that. It's that Israel just wants to destroy that country. When there was a JCPOA, there was no war. That took war off the table, and Trump shredded the JCPOA at the strong recommendation of Netanyahu, by the way, to put war back on the table. And that's what we're seeing play out right now.
And this is something that has been so central, and it's not central to their survival. It's central to their ability to dominate the region, to steal land, to expand, to have more Lebensraum, as the Germans, used to say. And so the ability to maintain this stranglehold on a bipartisan level on the American consciousness, American public opinion, especially in Washington, has been absolutely central to the Israelis for, as long as Israel has existed. And to watch it now all kind of unravel. And I do think the main reason is independent media. Like, you can try and censor now all you want, but there's enough places you can go and that offer free speech. There's people who are just too big to censor, like Rogan, and Tucker, and a lot of other people who have been just, very willing to finally talk about this issue. And, David Ellison and his daddy, Larry Ellison, they can buy out like CBS, and now they're trying to buy, Warner Brothers and CNN and everything else. They can buy all that they want. This is never going to reverse. Yeah, exactly. Or, Paramount and CBS News, like, it's not nothing, but it's kind of like trying to build a little brick wall to stop a tsunami.
Okay. You got any feedback on that? That's Glenn Greenwald reveals why Israel Lobby is full panic mode. If you want to check it out, and he mentioned that book on there. Yeah. Got any feedback on
that? I remember Shalom, Brother Leonard, when you said whoever rich when the flood came, it didn't matter.
Right.
Not the same thing they doing, trying to scramble up all this money.
Right.
They ain't gonna do nothing to help save them either.
And he already told us. He said at the end, the world was gonna hate the oil. That's what we're looking at, huh?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So like I say, Most High scriptures are playing out, but they didn't synchronize them in there with that and got people thrown off. They can't rightly divide was the Lord of hosts prophesied and what these people have prophesied. Okay. But we're gonna pick a scripture before we close out. You got a scripture you want to deal with, and we'll read it and break it down, then we'll close out.
Right, Shalom. And Brother Leonard, this in Azariah, in the prayer of Azariah. And
Okay.
it's yes, sir. And this is verses 66, 67, and 68. And it says, Bless the Lord, Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael. Sing praise to him and highly exalt him forever. For he has rescued us from Hades and saved us from the power of death and delivered us from the midst of the burning fiery furnace. From the midst of the fire he has delivered us. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endures forever. All who worship the Lord, bless the God of gods. Sing praise to him and give thanks to him, for his mercy endures forever. And Shalom, that was the prayer of Azariah, verses 66, 67, and 68.
Okay. So you got anything else before we close out? Anything you want to shine light on?
Oh, Shalom, just in there, Brother Leonard, how they mentioned that this Lord delivered them from that furnace. And when we read in Daniel, it well, it said he looked like a son of God, but we know that's an angel.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
That's Michael.
Right, the same being that showed up in Amalek when he went and delivered self.
Right.
There's some. Well, yeah, but they can't. The average person can't connect them dots. They can't. They've been brainwashed to believe that it's something else going on. It's a son of God. When we know that the Most High created these angels, 7 in particular, to do His bidding for him. Not no son of God, not no man. These angels doing His bidding for him. Holy ones, like I said, it's a holy one that's over Israel. Yahweh ain't a holy one. He formed 7 holy ones in the very beginning before he did anything else. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, Phinel, yeah, Uriel. He formed these 7 angels. That's who do his bidding for him, because he's a consuming fire. He can't actually deal with his creation, because anything that's tainted or sin, he can't deal with it. He'll consume it. So he created these 7 angels to do his bidding for him. And in particular, he created Michael first, and he's like him. He who was like Yahweh, he's the one doing all the bidding. And for the longest, people assumed it was Yahweh. Like he said, when he came to Egypt to deliver the Israelites, they knew him as God Almighty before that. But when they figured out who he was, they figured out he was Jehovah. And you say, what are you talking about? Well, the being that Daniel dealing with in chapter 10, he's being described. He's being described. He got a clothes on. He got flesh on him. He girded about with a golden girdle. That ain't Yahweh. Then you go to Ezekiel chapter 1, that's when you're dealing with Yahweh. He's a consuming fire. He's of a silhouette of a man, but he's fire from his waist upward and his waist down. You can read Ezekiel chapter 1, starting at verse 25, 26, 27, 28. That's Yahweh. The man that he's dealing with in the chapter 10 of Daniel, that Daniel dealing with is not Yahweh. The one that showed up in Genesis 18 with Abraham, that's Michael. That's not Yahweh. Okay? That's where so many people going wrong here. Then you got Negroes trying to supersede it and coming up with some mysterious understanding of that. And when it's not mysterious. Okay? Yeah. So you good.
Right, yes, sir.
Okay. So with that being said, I'm gonna say shalom to everybody. We have our reading through the Tanakh tomorrow night, where we we read 5 chapters out of the Tanakh and break them down, and then we have a little dialogue and a little current events all intermingle with it. So I'll see everybody tomorrow at 7 p.m. for our reading through the Tanakh. Shalom.
Shalom.
I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it, because it's a must that you understand who the God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament in Tanakh, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up, and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel, and it's a breakdown on the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is, and the Godhead.